If one dares to descend into the unconscious depths of the narcissist's world, one must be prepared not for spectacle, but for subtlety. It is not in the obvious shine of vanity where their secrets lie, but in the strange, symbolic artifacts they curate in silence. The house is more than shelter. It is the theater of their inner archetypes, the container of the self distorted by illusion. Among the first of these curious artifacts are mirrors, not merely for function, but portals of reflection. These are not placed randomly. Each is a calculated altar to the persona, that mask worn for others. They position these reflective surfaces where they might catch their own gaze, to self-witness, to rehearse control over image. Yet behind this, unknowingly, they reveal a deeper hunger, to see in the mirror not themselves, but the self they wish others to revere. Wander deeper, and one might find odd drawers, boxes, or even digital folders where tokens of external validation are meticulously stored. Old awards, flattering letters, screenshots of praise, photographs beside admired figures. These are the relics of a fragile self, each one a totem feeding the illusion of worth. These items are not nostalgia, they are ammunition against the terror of being ordinary. Somewhere, usually hidden from the common guest, exists a symbol of their ideal self, perhaps a mannequin dressed impeccably, a sketch of their future face, or a journal filled with grand visions. These items are projections, not of what is, but what must be believed. They are attempts to solidify an identity through external shape, like casting shadows and pretending they are form. But the house is not only shrine, it is also tomb. Tucked behind bookshelves in discarded closets or deleted from digital view are traces of rejection, failure, abandonment. These are the artifacts of their shadow, broken relationships, failures, critical letters. Rather than integrating them, they are exiled. Yet the psyche remembers. The more they are hidden, the louder they echo in dreams, in triggers, in unexplainable rage. What surprises many is that often, hidden deep within the narcissist's domain, is a quiet shrine to someone they both envy and admire. A sibling, a rival, a celebrity, someone they study obsessively, desiring their traits while simultaneously resenting them. This paradox is never spoken, for to admit admiration is to cede power. Yet the presence of this figure shapes much of their ambition and resentment. Lastly, and perhaps most eerily, are the private writings, notes, scripts, even entire journals, filled with imagined confrontations, victories and plans. These are not diaries in the usual sense, but blueprints of psychological conquest. They reveal not emotional vulnerability, but tactics. Control is their creed, and these writings betray the mind of one who plays the long game, not to connect, but to win. To understand the narcissist's home is to gaze not merely at their possessions, but into their unconscious architecture. What they hide is what they fear, and what they fear is often the very thing they refuse to see. That behind all their symbols of grandiosity lies an aching, fragmented self, longing not for worship, but for wholeness. In the quiet corners of a narcissist's home, one might notice something that seems harmless at first glance. Mirrors. They are everywhere, lined along hallways, resting above fireplaces, framed lavishly in bathrooms, and often strategically placed to catch the light just right. But these are not merely instruments of decor or tools for grooming. They serve a far deeper and more symbolic function. In the life of a narcissist, the mirror is not just glass. It is an altar, a companion, and at times a stage. Through it, the narcissist rehearses and sustains their identity, one carefully manufactured and guarded with a kind of sacred intensity. The mirror represents the persona, the social mask, the narcissist must perfect. Unlike ordinary individuals who glance into mirrors to check for flaws or adjust a collar, the narcissist gazes with the weight of necessity. They are not checking their reflection. They are confirming the existence of the image they have built. In the absence of external affirmation, the mirror offers a surrogate audience, an eternal gaze that never turns away. It reflects back what the narcissist wants to see, or rather, what they want others to see in them. This self-reinforcement becomes a ritual, one that begins subtly, then deepens into something essential for their psychic stability. But there is another layer. The mirror is a tool of control. In a narcissist's domain, It allows them to monitor not only their own image, but also to manage how others perceive them. They observe how they walk, how they smile, how their body moves through space. This obsessive self-surveillance serves as a constant rehearsal for performance. It is not about authenticity. It is about mastering the art of appearance. In this way, the narcissist doesn't just live in a house filled with mirrors. They live inside a theater where they are both the actor and the critic. There is also a strange intimacy that develops between the narcissist and their mirrored self. It is the only relationship in which they have total dominance. The reflection never argues, never criticizes, never withdraws affection. It mirrors back perfection, or the illusion of it. In moments of uncertainty or shame, emotions they cannot bear to face in relationships with others, they may turn to the mirror as a form of solace. The glass becomes a boundary between the vulnerable inner self and the outside world, allowing the narcissist to retreat into a fantasy where they are still in control, still admired, still invulnerable. The placement of mirrors in their space is rarely random. A mirror facing the front door ensures their exit into the world is seen by themselves as powerful and impressive. A mirror near their workspace allows them to see themselves being productive or successful. Even mirrors in social spaces like living rooms or kitchens are often there not to reflect beauty, but to remind them, and perhaps even guests, of the central figure in the room, them. It becomes an unconscious method of asserting dominance, anchoring attention, and reinforcing the narcissist's constructed image as the focal point of any environment. Yet there is irony here, and even tragedy. For in all the gazing, what they see is not truly themselves. The mirror, like the persona, reflects only the surface. Beneath the performance lies a self that is fragmented, often terrified of being seen for what it really is: ordinary, vulnerable, fallible. The narcissist avoids this inner confrontation by doubling down on the image, polishing it endlessly, decorating it, maintaining it at all costs. But the mirror is a false friend. It offers no empathy, no real connection. It cannot heal the fractured self. It can only distract from it. So while others may see a beautiful mirror hanging on a wall, the narcissist sees something else entirely. They see validation, they see control, they see power, but most of all, they see protection from the world, from judgment, and most painfully, from themselves. And in that reflection, for a fleeting moment, they are whole, even if it is only an illusion. Behind the carefully curated surface of a narcissist's home lies a quiet but powerful truth. Their inner world is held together by symbols, small, seemingly insignificant objects that function as trophies of validation. These items are not haphazard souvenirs. They are deliberately preserved relics of admiration, status, and praise. To the outside observer, a shelf filled with awards, framed photos, or old birthday cards may appear like sentimental memorabilia. But for the narcissist, these are not mementos of connection. They are the architecture of self-worth, external proof that they are special, superior, and worthy of attention. A narcissist's identity is constructed, not discovered. It is not an internal truth to be lived, but an external narrative to be believed. And that narrative must be reinforced constantly. Since they rely so heavily on others for affirmation, they collect reminders of those moments when the world seemed to agree with their internal fantasy. Each item, a glowing report card, a certificate, a compliment written in a card, a photo with someone powerful, is more than just an object. It becomes a token of significance, a physical anchor that says, yes, you are great, you are better, you are admired. These tokens are not always grand or obvious. Some are hidden in drawers, scanned into folders, tucked into boxes that are only opened in private. They are not displayed for casual guests or shared freely, like nostalgic treasures. Instead, they are often hidden away and brought out only when the narcissist feels threatened, insecure, or forgotten. In such moments, these validation tokens become emotional lifelines. They provide a temporary shield against the emptiness of the ego, a reinforcement of the persona that is constantly in danger of cracking. There is also a curious ritual to this collecting. The narcissist will often remember exactly where they were, who said what, and how it felt when each token was acquired. A screenshot of a flattering social media comment may be saved. An email full of praise may be printed and filed. A seemingly mundane item like a program from an event where they were mentioned or applauded will be preserved with care. These things serve as markers in their internal mythology, the ongoing story they tell themselves about their greatness and superiority. But it is not just the presence of these items that matters. It is the emotional weight they carry. Each one represents a moment when they were seen in the way they want to be seen, admired, envied, desired. This momentary reflection, often brief and fleeting, is captured and held as if it were eternal. In doing so, the narcissist tries to freeze validation in time, to turn ephemeral attention into permanent proof. The outside world may forget, move on, or grow indifferent, but these items will never lose their assigned meaning. They are, in a sense, the narcissist's private gospel. Yet, underneath this collection lies an unspoken anxiety. If they were truly secure, truly grounded in their sense of self, there would be no need to archive every compliment or triumph. The obsessive need to preserve validation reveals the deep fragility of their ego. These tokens are less about celebrating the past and more about defending against the present fear of insignificance. They are psychological armor worn in solitude, evidence compiled to fight off the inner voice that whispers of inadequacy. Interestingly, when challenged or criticized, the narcissist may retreat to these tokens, not physically, but emotionally. They might remember the praise from years ago and use it to dismiss the current judgment. In this way, the collection becomes a mental sanctuary, a place they visit to reassure themselves that the world once saw them as they wish to always be seen. The danger, of course, is that living off old validation becomes addictive. Instead of growing, evolving, or forming real connections, they become stuck in a loop of needing more proof, more admiration, more trophies. No matter how hollow, the narcissist's collection of validation is therefore not a sign of confidence, but a monument to insecurity. It is a constant reminder of the gap between the ideal self and the real self. Each item tries to close that gap, but none can truly succeed. They are fragments of approval, held together by fear, desperate attempts to construct a lasting self out of other people's fleeting recognition. And in that, the narcissist is both collector and captive, chasing permanence in a world that offers only momentary glimpses. Inside the private spaces of a narcissist's home, there often exists something peculiar, something symbolic, that doesn't immediately reveal its deeper meaning. It might be a mannequin dressed immaculately, a meticulously crafted vision board, a portrait of themselves painted in an idealized form, or a journal filled with grand dreams and exalted affirmations. These are not mere decorative choices or casual hobbies. They are physical manifestations of the narcissist's ideal self, projections not of who they are, but of who they believe they must become in order to be worthy of admiration, dominance, and control. These items act as visual anchors for the fantasy version of the self that they wish to inhabit, and by surrounding themselves with these symbols, they seek to bring the fantasy closer to reality. The narcissist's life is a performance staged against a backdrop of inner fragmentation. Deep within, they sense a gap, a chasm between the real self and the self that they want others to see. Rather than confronting this division, they externalize the ideal, dressing it up, giving it form, hanging it on walls or writing it into notebooks. These representations are crafted with care, often reflecting exaggerated versions of beauty, status, intelligence, or success. They are infused with aspiration and obsession, charged with the need to maintain the illusion that the narcissist is not only unique, but destined for something extraordinary. In the quiet of their own space, when no one else is watching, the narcissist will return to these objects like one returns to a mirror, not for reflection, but for reassurance. A mannequin, dressed in clothing too elegant for daily use, may not serve a practical purpose, but instead stands as a sculptural embodiment of the person they imagine themselves to be. Flawless, admired, powerful. Likewise, a vision board crowded with images of wealth, status, beauty, and recognition is not simply a motivational tool. It is an altar to a future self that promises to finally silence the internal voice of inadequacy. Journals may be filled with affirmations, imagined interviews, award acceptance speeches, or letters to critics that were never sent. These are not mere writings, they are scripts, rehearsals for the persona they strive to perfect. This symbolic construction is vital to their sense of stability. To the narcissist, the ideal self is not just a goal, it is a requirement. Without it, they fear disintegration, a collapse into ordinariness that feels like death to their carefully protected ego. Therefore, the house becomes a temple of control, a place where the imagined self can be maintained and nurtured in safety. No criticism enters this private realm. No confrontation with failure is allowed. Only admiration, even if self-generated, is permitted. There is, however, a paradox. The closer they try to live alongside this idealized version, the more painfully aware they become of the difference between who they are and who they pretend to be. The objects become reminders, not just of aspiration, but of insufficiency. The perfect sketch, the elegant outfit on a lifeless mannequin, the photo of a glamorous past self. Each one whispers a subtle message. You are not this yet. You must become this. You are still not enough. Rather than inspiring growth, these symbols can trap the narcissist in a cycle of constant comparison and silent despair. The ideal self, once a goal, becomes a tyrant. Yet they cannot let go of these projections. To do so would mean facing the parts of themselves they have rejected, the vulnerable, the uncertain, the ordinary. And so they continue to decorate their homes with these objects, constructing a psychological sanctuary that also serves as a prison. They live in proximity to perfection, but never quite touch it. They see themselves in the symbols, but cannot inhabit them fully. It is an elaborate dance between fantasy and reality, held together by denial and the desperate need to be more than what they fear they truly are. The symbolic representations of their ideal self are therefore both mask and mirror. They shield the narcissist from their own fragility while reflecting back the fantasy they must maintain. These objects are not accessories. They are extensions of the ego, crafted, curated, and guarded with sacred intensity. Through them, the narcissist seeks not to discover their identity, but to create it, piece by perfect piece, image by idealized image, forever just out of reach. Within the home of a narcissist, behind the polished surfaces and curated appearances, there is often a zone that remains off-limits, emotionally, physically, or both. It may be a locked drawer, a cluttered closet, a password-protected folder on a computer, or simply a box buried under years of dust in the attic. What lies hidden in these spaces is not something proudly displayed like awards or self-portraits. Instead, these are the relics of rejection, failure, humiliation, or loss. They are the tangible remains of moments when the world refused to comply with the narcissist's grand self-image, moments when reality shattered the illusion of superiority. These items are not merely discarded, they are exiled, pushed out of sight, as if their very presence threatens the structure of the narcissist's carefully built identity. For the narcissist, failure is more than disappointment. It is annihilation. Their self-worth does not rest on a stable inner foundation, but on the constant maintenance of an inflated persona. Any experience that contradicts that persona, whether it be rejection, criticism, abandonment, or perceived inadequacy, must be erased from view. And yet it cannot be destroyed entirely. Instead, it is hidden, buried in the recesses of the home, like an unwanted ghost that continues to whisper from the shadows. These hidden items might include old report cards with poor grades, breakup letters, photographs from times when they were visibly struggling, or documents that mark financial loss or professional embarrassment. In many cases, even objects associated with people who no longer idealize or admire them are removed from their visible world. The irony is that these hidden objects carry immense psychic energy. Though kept out of sight, they are not out of mind. In fact, the very act of hiding them gives them more power. The narcissist may avoid them consciously, but on some level, they know where they are, they know what they represent, and when their external world feels unstable, when admiration dwindles or criticism surfaces, these buried symbols of failure stir beneath the surface, triggering waves of shame, rage, or sudden defensiveness. In this way, the narcissist is never truly free of their past defeats. They are merely suppressed, made taboo within the sacred space of self-presentation. Unlike a healthy individual who might revisit painful memories as part of healing or growth, the narcissist cannot tolerate such reflection. To acknowledge past mistakes or wounds would require a confrontation with vulnerability, something their ego structure cannot support. Instead, they create a dichotomy, what is shown and what is buried. Publicly, they maintain a narrative of constant success, evolution, and brilliance. Privately, they struggle with the unresolved remnants of times when they were exposed, dismissed, or forgotten. And rather than processing these experiences, they imprison them in physical form within the spaces they themselves avoid. Sometimes, this need to hide failure becomes compulsive. They might destroy evidence altogether, delete files, throw out objects, or rewrite stories so thoroughly that even they begin to believe the revision. But more often, they cannot quite let go. On some level, these items still matter. They are the shadow side of their ideal self, the reminders of who they fear they truly are underneath the performance. And because they cannot integrate this shadow, it haunts them, subtly shaping their behavior, their paranoia, their relentless need to succeed. There are also moments when these hidden relics are revisited, alone, in secrecy, during moments of extreme stress or collapse. In such moments, the narcissist may stare at a failed project, an old letter of rejection, or a photo from a time of weakness, not with curiosity or humility, but with a mix of hatred and fear. These objects do not evoke growth or self-compassion. Instead, they become symbols of threat, of what must never be allowed to surface again. Thus, the home of the narcissist is divided, not just in form but in function. One part is a stage of perfection, curated for admiration and control. The other is a crypt of shame, sealed off and avoided at all costs. But the two are inseparably connected. The more elaborate the performance of success, the more painful the hidden failures become. And as long as those symbols remain locked away, unexamined and unresolved, the narcissist remains trapped, not only by the image they show the world, but by the truths they cannot bear to face. Within the carefully orchestrated world of a narcissist, there often exists a secret and contradictory devotion, a hidden shrine, whether physical or symbolic, dedicated to someone they admire, envy, or seek to emulate. This figure might be a family member, a celebrity, a successful peer, or even an idealized stranger whose qualities the narcissist craves but cannot claim for themselves. The presence of this shrine is rarely obvious. It is concealed beneath the surface of grandiosity and self-importance, existing quietly in a corner, in a stack of magazines, in an old photograph, or even in the digital folders hidden on a private device. This hidden homage reveals a complex emotional dynamic that underpins the narcissist's psyche, a paradoxical blend of reverence and resentment, aspiration and rivalry. The figure at the center of this secret shrine represents an ideal, a model for what the narcissist believes they should be. This idealized other embodies the traits the narcissist admires deeply: power, charisma, beauty, influence, or success. The narcissist's fixation on this person is not simply admiration. It is a way of measuring their own worth against an unreachable standard. This comparison fuels their ambition, pushing them to imitate, to compete, and at times to obsess. Yet beneath the surface of emulation lies a simmering envy, a recognition that the qualities they desire are not wholly theirs, that they occupy a space in the narcissist's mind that is both inspiring and painful. This hidden shrine may take many forms. It could be a collection of articles about a famous figure, photographs from public events where the admired person appeared, or a journal filled with detailed notes analyzing that individual's behavior and successes. Sometimes, it manifests as a shelf, lined with books written by or about the person, or even personal items purchased to emulate their style or presence. In some cases, it is an imagined dialogue, recorded privately in writing or video, where the narcissist rehearses conversations with the admired figure, seeking approval or rivalry in the fantasy. These artifacts are not casual. They are sacred tokens of a psychological relationship that is intensely private and deeply charged. The shrine exists not only as a source of inspiration, but also as a battleground. The narcissist struggles with contradictory emotions. On one hand, a desire to absorb the qualities of this other, and on the other, a fierce resentment for the power this figure holds over their self-image. This ambivalence reflects a fundamental tension within the narcissist's identity. The need to appear unique and superior clashes with the humiliating acknowledgement of dependence on an external ideal. The shrine embodies this tension, a silent witness to the narcissist's unspoken conflicts. Moreover, this hidden devotion is rarely confessed or shared. To admit to it would be to expose vulnerability, to reveal that the narcissist's self-worth is in part derived from external comparison rather than intrinsic value. The narcissist's public persona is one of confidence, control, and autonomy. The shrine, by contrast, reveals the shadow side of this facade, the insecurity, the longing, and the hidden acknowledgement of imperfection. It is a reminder that beneath the polished surface, the narcissist is still tethered to the figure who represents the standard they have not yet reached. This dynamic also explains some of the narcissist's behavior in social and professional settings. Their relentless pursuit of status, approval, and recognition can often be traced back to this internalized figure. Every achievement may be motivated not only by personal ambition, but by the desire to prove themselves against this ideal. Rivalries and conflicts may be fueled by feelings of inadequacy or jealousy toward those who resemble or associate with the admired figure. In this way, the shrine is not just a passive symbol, it is an active force shaping the narcissist's actions, ambitions, and fears. Yet, despite the power this hidden figure holds, the narcissist can never fully surrender to admiration. The relationship is inherently unstable because it is built on a foundation of comparison and competition rather than genuine connection. The shrine is both a sanctuary and a prison, a place where hope and frustration coexist. It reflects the narcissist's deepest contradictions, the simultaneous craving for validation and the fear of dependence, the desire to be exceptional and the terror of being ordinary. In the end, this secret shrine reveals much about the inner landscape of the narcissist. It is a silent testament to their ongoing struggle to define themselves through others, to claim an identity that feels real and powerful. Yet it also underscores the loneliness and isolation that accompany this quest, as the narcissist remains forever in the shadow of the idealized other, caught between envy and aspiration, admiration and resentment, longing and rejection. Within the walls of a narcissist's home, there often exists a curious paradox, a place or an object that reveals the hidden fragility beneath their imposing exterior. This is the secret stash of vulnerabilities, doubts and fears carefully concealed from the world, but quietly preserved within their personal space. Unlike the trophies of admiration or the symbolic representations of their ideal self, these are the deeply personal wounds and insecurities the narcissist cannot bear to expose, even to themselves. They are buried under layers of denial, but their presence is undeniable, a silent testament to the inner turmoil, masked by grandiosity. The narcissist's identity is built on a foundation of strength, superiority, and control, yet this facade is often brittle, hiding a core of profound insecurity. The vulnerabilities they keep hidden are not accidental or random. They are carefully locked away, sometimes literally, in drawers, boxes, or digital files. These might include private journals filled with confessions of loneliness, recordings of moments when they felt abandoned, letters never sent, or even objects tied to painful memories, photos from times of failure, gifts from people who rejected them, or reminders of traumatic events. These hidden fragments of their emotional life reveal the parts they dare not show, because to reveal them would threaten the entire edifice of their carefully maintained self-image. What makes this secret stash so crucial is that it is the reservoir of what the narcissist most fears and denies. To openly acknowledge vulnerability would be to admit imperfection, weakness, and need, a direct contradiction to the image they present to the world. Instead, they create an internal exile for these feelings, distancing themselves from anything that might hint at emotional fragility. This exile, however, does not erase the pain. It only intensifies the narcissist's need for control and validation. The more these vulnerabilities are suppressed, the more fiercely the narcissist defends their persona and the greater their fear of exposure. The presence of this hidden emotional cache influences much of the narcissist's behavior. It fuels their relentless pursuit of admiration and dominance as a means of compensating for the feelings of inadequacy lurking beneath. It explains the hypersensitivity to criticism, the need for control over relationships, and the deep anxiety that can arise when their constructed identity is threatened. Because these vulnerabilities are never integrated or healed, they manifest as defensive behaviors, anger, manipulation, or withdrawal, to keep others at a distance and protect the fragile self beneath. Interestingly, these hidden vulnerabilities sometimes become visible in moments of crisis or solitude. When the narcissist is alone, away from the eyes of others, they may revisit these secret stashes, reading old letters, reflecting on painful memories, or silently confronting fears they cannot express openly. These moments are often filled with conflicting emotions, shame, regret, longing, and self-loathing, mixed with a desperate hope for reassurance. Yet, rather than leading to healing, these private encounters often reinforce the narcissist's isolation and reinforce the cycle of denial. The wounds remain unhealed because facing them fully would mean dismantling the defenses built around the ego. The hidden vulnerabilities also explain why narcissists can appear so different in private versus public. In public, they perform with confidence and charm, but in private, they may struggle with profound loneliness, self-doubt, and fear. This split creates an exhausting tension, a double life where the persona is maintained at great psychological cost. The secret emotional cache is both the source of this tension and the key to understanding it. Moreover, this hidden emotional realm is often a place where the narcissist's deepest yearning resides, a yearning for genuine connection, acceptance, and love without conditions. Yet paradoxically, their defense mechanisms prevent them from allowing anyone close enough to see or heal these vulnerabilities. The secret stash becomes a symbol of what is most human and authentic within them, yet also what they most fear losing or revealing. Ultimately, this hidden cache of vulnerability is what makes the narcissist profoundly human beneath the mask. It is a reminder that behind the veneer of perfection and superiority lies a wounded self, struggling to be seen and understood, but trapped by fear and denial. The narcissist's home, therefore, is not just a place of performance and projection, but also a repository of hidden pain and unspoken truths. It is within this secret space that the possibility for transformation exists, if only the narcissist could find the courage to face what they have long kept hidden.